Hey everybody, it's Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group at Remax Camosin, co-host of He Said, She Said, They Said with.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew Plank with LePage, and good to see you on this beautiful Monday morning, first day after daylight savings time.
That's why I'm so tired.
Yeah, this is why Jane and I were both a little late getting started today. No excuses, but still.
And look at this weather's just causing havoc with my hair.
It looks marvelous. Jane was commenting on my beard. I think I'm going for a realtor lumberjack look right now, but I was supposed to have a trim, and then the guy who was going to do it had to cancel because he had some sneezing and sniffles and stuff.
So I ran into another realtor on the last week, and they watch our show. Hi, Jen. So, I mean, when we made up this show, we were thinking it was going to be for buyers and sellers, but we're finding a lot of realtors are watching. Aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, people say, "Oh, I see your show, and like your show and all that stuff." So that's good. I'm glad that people within the industry are enjoying it. Hopefully, that other folks are enjoying it as well.
We got one thumb up for that. So listen, you guys, write questions, because sometimes we feel like we're talking into the ether.
Well, Jane and I are just having a good time, and we sometimes forget you're there.
Yeah. What's your cat's name again, by the way?
Oh, this is Sid. Sid Vicious.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do our stats.
Okay. He's like a little parrot.
Well, actually, let's talk about your week. What happened with your week?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. It was a bad week. I found a unicorn property for some clients who unfortunately decided against it. So we were able to find a property that wasn't competing, was new on market, wasn't competing, was well priced. For whatever reason, nobody came to the table on it except for us. So we were able to get an offer in with conditions, but for their own reasons, the buyers decided not to go forward. And unfortunately, I don't think they're going to find something equivalent or better in the future. This one's been relisted, already under contract with a bully offer, going to go well above what we had it tied up at. I've been thinking about the fact that so much of this industry is, I don't know if you find this, Jane, but much of this industry, my attitude and feelings have to do with sometimes what's going on with my clients. And so you have to really sort of check your emotions and work to that. But, when I've got a lot of really motivated, active buyers, I'm really engaged in the market. When I'm dealing with folks that are kind of having some issues, I guess, really understanding the market or just aren't motivated themselves, it's hard to get motivated on their behalf.
Well, I think the answer to that is that we live in the market and they don't. Mm-hmm. And so when we see a property that's good value, we see a property that's good value, we think, go for it. And they don't realize the value. It actually happened when I first got into real estate. I showed a guy a property on Colville, and I remember him standing in the living room like this. Could it be this easy? It was the first house we saw.
Yeah. And did he get it?
He didn't go for it. Mm. And so then literally like 6 months later, we bought the house down the street that was built by the same builder.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it's a short journey. Sometimes it's a long journey. And people really, it's hard to build that trust relationship with your agent and the market itself, where you understand really the rhythms of what's going on. But it's hard when you are putting your full time and effort into this, and people are not really picking it up or hearing it. And that is sales, right? That's the way it goes. But it can be frustrating. So yeah,
I think you have to speak their language. Maybe you're not speaking. Maybe you're not connecting. Honestly, like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you're maybe focused on how it feels, and they're focused on all the facts, and vice versa.
Oh, absolutely. And there can be some element of that, if you're not on the same page. And it's interesting. I know we're going to go into stats, but have forgotten we have an audience and we're just chatting now. But I mean, I just went for coffee with a colleague who he refers me actually a lot of business. And he said to me, you know, all the feedback he gets is that I'm, you know, raving reviews and
Lies.
different people, different profiles, different kinds of people. He said, Andrew, I think you're a bit of a real estate chameleon. You can work with lots of different people, but I'm not a chameleon in the sense that I change my spots, but I think I am able to hear and help a lot of people. But it doesn't mean you can always do it all the time. And it does take some effort to speak a language that's not your natural language.
Yeah. Well, I think you're emotionally intelligent, so that speaks to that as well. That you're in it for the long haul. So I wrote an offer on a property on the weekend, and we actually wrote 2 offers on this property because anyway, the listing agent got angry at me for writing what was a reasonable offer, I felt. And anyway, I was like, it's okay. Don't take it personally. We're writing an offer where we think the market's at. It's been on the market for, a number of days. And so anyway, I'll just send him a note and say, let me know if it comes back. We would love to work with you. But Marty laughs, says, Jane is a real estate whisperer. Thank you. He just made my day.
There you go.
Okay. Anyway, let's go to the stats for this week. Yay.
I'm just going to comment too, though, like sometimes that's a strategy on the part of the realtor. It's affected anger. I've seen that. I think you've seen that where people are putting up their defenses on behalf of their clients in a way. You don't know what I'm talking about?
I do. I don't think that was the case. I think the realtor was genuinely upset.
Yeah, and that's just not productive.
No. And you know what? The thing is the problem was this realtor listed where properties are selling, and we have to start listing where people are looking. And the buyers, I get comments from buyers all the time that say, do they really expect more than that? Which says that this is the psychology of the buyer.
And that's actually exactly what happened with the property that we got tied up. It was listed a little under, I think, under its value, but in that area, prices were going 100, 200 above asking on a regular basis. And so I think people were primed to think, well, I wouldn't want to pay XX for this, so I'm not going to even go for it because it's what they're expecting. And yet the seller was willing to take asking price.
Yeah. Well, sometimes people are afraid to list for less than what they're willing to take. And so this is the psychology of the seller. So anyway, we'll go into that some other time. All right. Yeah. All righty. So, actually, the one on the left is correct. The one on the right is last week. So I apologize. The new one wasn't out yet. Okay, so new listings, 232, pending 206, which is great. That means we're accumulating some more inventory.
That looks similar to last week as well. Are you sure this is the same? This is an updated one on the left?
You're right. I've uploaded the wrong one. Okay. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Okay, so yeah. I'm feeling like we're going to see those numbers spreading a little bit wider. Even more properties are coming on market, so we'll probably see that there's going to be more listings and sales yet again. I actually sent Jane. I don't know if you got those, but the BC Real Estate Association stats, which we should share at some point, showing the BC wide stats and also some really interesting buyer versus seller market graphing as well. So. Jane, I don't know if you have those. I don't remember if I can share a screen now. If I can, I will.
I do have them. Just hold on. Okay. I'm going to have to be creative here.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to just open screen 2. And I'm going to put this on screen 2. So hold on a second.
I can pull up those other stats if you need. Me too. So.
I got it.
Okay.
We're good. All right. What can you see?
I can see us, smiling faces, me in a suit, in my jacket. Yeah, there we are. There we are. Oh, look at that. I think the numbers have increased, but I think the spread's about the same.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking it was this week. So 238 new listings, 213 pending. You can take away the rest.
Okay, so price decreases of 26 and price increases of 14. I had a client actually email me like, what? They've increased their price? Why are they doing this? Had to explain to her that it looked to me like they'd maybe gone to offers, received one that was conditional. The offer probably fell apart. I know I'm reading minds here, but this is what often happens. The offer then maybe fell apart due to financing or something. And then they brought it back to market at a higher price because they knew they couldn't go back to the same early strategy of let's go to multiple offers and try to get above asking price. So they went to the price they were going to, wanted to get in the end. I've seen that happen a number of times.
Also, new construction, sometimes they increase price. They've been doing that lately.
They have been doing a lot of that. Yeah. Yeah. I've got clients, we were looking for a place last year. And it's a phased development of townhouses. They started at around 825. When we looked at, they were 850. My clients decided to maybe pivot a bit and we're looking for a single family home instead. Prices kept going up. We pivoted back in early 2020 to go look again because one of the units could come up in the next phase. Their pricing at that point was 925. So they come up 100 grand over their original. And then after we got tied in, they upped their prices again to 950. So these are developers are always, as the agent was saying, developers are always pushing the envelope to see, what the market will bear.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't sell, and that's
when they don't sell. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this was underneath that other slide in the stats.
Yeah. It was funny. There's an email that I received from BC Real Estate Association, and they had a slide that showed the buyer's market versus seller's market. But if you clicked on it, it brought up this slide, which I found interesting. Yeah. Do you want to speak to this one, Jane, and I'll speak to the next one?
Sure. So the gray line at the bottom is 2019. So that's just before COVID. Mm-hmm. The average is the dotted line. The green line is 2016, which
2020.
2020. The blue line, which is the second from the top, is 2016. So we had a great year in 2016.
Banner year in 2016, and obviously 2021 is showing even higher amounts of sales. So.
Right. So what they're saying though is in February of 2022, there were 8,902 sales across BC. This is down 18.1% from February of last year. And the average residential price went up. And they don't actually say this, but I'm pretty sure it's single family homes, went up to 1.109 million. This is up 24.9% from 887,866 in February of 2021. So we surpassed that $1 million mark and to the moon, Alice. And then the total dollar sales volume was up 1.5% this year over last year to 9.9 billion.
Wow. What I find, I wonder, I've never seen them do this, and I'd like to see this because, sometimes we look at stats back to the 1990s or even 1980. And if we adjusted based on population, that would be an interesting thing to see. I was going to talk to Leo Spaltos about that. He does the House Hunt Victoria website. Because I think that would be a really, really telling additional piece of information.
Well, it's interesting you say that because the next stat, they talk about an inventory of 40,000 listings for a balanced market, but I think this is not taking into account the net migration of people coming to British
BC
Columbia
and Canada and BC and everything. So absolutely. So you can see here this graph, if this was to go further back in time, you'd see it mostly, I think, within this gray bar area of 10 to 20% list to sell ratio. And we've had a couple of markets in 2016 Jane referred to where we've gotten really, really quite busy and really active. And we're back, we're in, I think, unheard. I've never seen stats that show this kind of number in terms of list to sell ratio. We have such low inventory that almost everything that lists sells. Not everything, but almost everything.
Yeah, we don't want to say that because then people will think they could list it whatever. If it's overpriced, it's not going to sell.
Correct. Yeah.
But what they're saying is that the total active listings is down 19%. That our inventory overall is 16,000 compared to 40,000, which is needed for a balanced market. And we are recovering, as we saw in our own numbers, but we have a long way before we achieve balance.
So what brings balance then is either, time, a change in market conditions, a change in economy, a change in net, migration. If people decide to, just move out of Victoria as opposed, it's become unaffordable for many. That sort of thing, we'll start to see these things change. They either changes quickly or slowly, but I kind of assume that we're going to see some slowly or some bumps down the road to get back to balanced, and we may be a long ways from that.
Yeah, and total, like I think a balanced market here is between 2,500 and 3,000 listings. Okay.
Yeah, on market at one time, yes.
So average sales around the price. If you want to go through that, I'm going to let my dog out.
Okay. So for housing type and area, starting with single family homes, it looks like this is all single family homes that we're going to be comparing here. In Victoria, the benchmark price is $1,041,068. That's up 20.3% compared to last month. I think this must be compared to last year.
Oh, sorry. That's because I was using the graph from.
Jane pulled what we normally use, and she input the stuff from the BC Real Estate Association. 667 unit sales. That must have been for last year as well.
Yeah.
And that's down 18.8% over the year before. So less sales. Yeah. Hey, Jane, maybe you want to just go with this because you pulled these stats and you can just confirm if I'm right or wrong on those assumptions.
It is over last year. So it's 805,000 for the Vancouver Island. So that's from about Cobble Hill and up. That's up 32.8% over last year. And unit sales were down 15.1% to 757. So everyone was down actually, except for Kamloops, that was up 4%.
Interesting.
Yeah, Greater Vancouver, I just took like 5 areas, was at 1.343. And my friend, it's funny, we were talking about listing in the Vancouver area. She's in Surrey, and she was saying that she listed a townhome. They had come up with a price. Another listing came up in the complex before they listed. It was listed at $899. It sold for $869. They listed at $899, and they ended up getting 9 something for it.
Interesting. Yeah, there seems like I've called it frothy, but it seems like things are going in a little more wider spread direction. Like the scatter graph is spreading a bit in terms of where prices go, which tell me that we're kind of reaching maybe some sort of equilibrium between buyer demand and seller pricing. What do you think on that?
Well, I always tell people when we're going to be listing your house, really, what I say now doesn't matter. I mean, we can talk strategy. The strategy matters.
Yeah.
But what I say, what we decide the price upon will be what's happening in the market at that particular date and time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I can't find. There was a screenshot. I can't find it on my phone. There was something on one of our local BC-wide real estate groups, or actually might have been a national group, and said, "Welcome to the 2022 real estate market where comparables don't matter and prices out the window." Like, you just don't have. You can't look to the past, and it's just going to be, it's going to be more less stats and more gut feel, I think.
Well, and so let's just talk about that, because there was a post recently on a mom's forum, and this lady was wanting to get appraisals. And I said, listen, you really need a realtor evaluation. I mean, it didn't matter who did it, but because the appraisal is looking at sold data and the realtor is looking at what else is on the market. And so that will determine what market value is.
Right. You've got to, I mean, appraisals don't look at market trend in terms of like the market's going like this. They're going to see sales in the past and they're going to use those sales to make their market evaluation. Whereas, we're looking at the holistic picture and we're able to, because we're not constrained by the same rules, I think partly as an appraiser when it comes to making an appraisal, we can sort of show our clients more about what the market is doing, and then our clients, we can make some recommendations and our clients can make a choice on price and hopefully a more educated choice that's in real time for where price points are most likely to be.
Yeah. So I'm just going to generally summarize this chart. Compared to last year, we are up
a lot. And
in pricing, and compared to last year, we are down in unit sales.
And I want to actually add a couple things. One of the lines that's not in this chart is the south piece, and I'll just read this. Find it again. Oops. Now that sorry guys, I had this up and then got distracted by a phone call that came through and I had to hit cancel on. Here it is. So the South Peace River average price 233,346, pretty small numbers compared to what we've got here, but it's the only section where price was down 11.7% over last year. So that's just an interesting sort of side fact. Also noting that, versus Victoria versus, what's interesting to me is the larger centers are going up less than the more outlying areas. Those areas are where people, I think, are flocking to and finding the more value for their money. And so we're seeing a smaller percentage growth in Greater Vancouver, which still is probably a higher number growth, 18% of, let's just use these, of 1.3 million is more than 20% of 1 million. So the values are going up, but the percentages are less. And I think
I wonder though, maybe it's economically something happened in the South Piece.
It could be. Yeah, I'm not familiar with what's going on there. I think that I know that people have been talking about moving from, and this is not South Piece, but talking about moving from the interior because of the fires and weather and so forth. So where that was traditionally a place people would go and want to do retirement and so forth, they're not finding that the lifestyle is what they had expected or anticipated, or they just don't want to deal with that. So there's an extra drive to the island as well for that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to pros and cons of resales versus new stratas. This conversation came up on the weekend with a buyer. So Jenna Turnbull and I were out looking at properties with a client, and we were talking about the pros and cons of real estate. So a lot of buyers right now are going for new construction because they feel like there's no competition. They're not going to overbid. They're going to write the offer, and there's not going to be anybody else who's going to be bidding on it, which is not always true.
No, it's not always true. But it is true that, and one of my recent newsletters actually spoke to this as well, but you definitely have some more opportunity to find something hidden under a rock, let's say, in new construction. It's a little less public sometimes. It's a little more esoteric trying to find it. And when you do find it, there can be some advantages to it, as long as you understand the pros and cons.
So newer construction does tend to be smaller, and we're talking really condos here and maybe townhomes, but really condos. There is a warranty that comes with new construction you don't get with resale, but the older ones tend to be larger, and although they're dated, some of them are renovated. So I always suggest to people, like, don't knock those out, because I'm actually having one coming up that's beautifully renovated, like heated tile floors, new kitchen, everything.
Yeah. You have to take into account the whole picture there when you're buying strata, and when we're talking strata in terms of new and resale, because you're buying into the building as well. So even though a renovated interior is beautiful, if the exterior is still dated and needing a lot of work, you do have to consider upcoming future costs. Whereas I find that new construction, the strata fees tend to be a little lower, and people tend to wait a little bit longer before raising all those, becoming aware and alive to the fact that there will be some ongoing costs later on.
So and also the taxes differ so you can get a break on property transfer tax or GST on new construction, depending on circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And you do not get that break on resale. I will say, though, also for people really need to check in for resale if the property is being used for an Airbnb, because if they've earned, I think it's $7,500 over 2 quarters, they can actually be dinged for GST.
Yeah, so the buyer may have to pay GST on the sale that you are doing of your Airbnb condo. So that can affect it can affect how the tax flows and so on. So depending, talk to your accountant and understand the pros and cons of renting a place as an Airbnb.
Okay, and then the end product, you're really relying on your perceptions of the show home. And sometimes the show home may show better. Like we went into the Cadence and had these mirrors, and I was like, "Did the mirrors come with it?" And they said, "No."
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes when you see the show home, they're showing you the fully upgraded version of what you could be buying, and also, of course, they're putting their top efforts into the fit and finish of that. And I've seen certainly products where we've gone at completion, we go to do our home buyer purchase work walkthrough, and come up with a lot of deficiencies. And some of those deficiencies are easily addressed by the developer, and some just show that they didn't put the same care and attention and fit and finish into things. And it's just a disappointing experience. And there's only so much you can do about it at that point. You can push for things, but if it's not exactly warranty related and it's just maybe a poor job, it sort of depends on the developer as to how far they're going to go on this. And I've seen some developers really not bring satisfaction to clients.
Yep.
So it's important to look to the developer and their reputation and their past products as well.
Right. And so that actually speaks to the deficiency walkthrough, because sometimes they just don't want to make it right.
That's right. I had clients buy a condo, and the door had a big scratch in it. I guess they were bringing a appliance in or something, and this big, beautiful wooden door, and they scratched this door, and the developer was not, they weren't going to replace that door. And it's the first thing you see at this condo unit. And that was really, really disappointing. We fought for that and a number of other things. And I don't think I'll be bringing buyers to that. I will definitely be sharing my experience with buyers when I, talk about this company's products in the future.
So actually that brings to occupancy and price. So I had clients who bought a place, and it took 3 years for this building to be developed. It just kept getting stalled. And so they would start to send out a new disclosure statement with the new dates, and they were onerous probably on most buyers, but we were watching the market going up. So I think we offered in 2016, and they didn't move into 2019, and it just took forever and ever and ever. And all the buyers were starting to talk amongst each other about what to do, and we all decided to hold on because the prices were going up. So you can make a profit on new construction. And in this case, when I have working against the developer doesn't necessarily want you to hold on to it if they feel they're going to make $100,000 more. So
some developers will hold, true to the agreement, to the spirit of the agreement. But developers are profit motivated, and if there's enough substantial changes to the development, and I've seen this happen, and it's happened to clients, where they actually cancel the development, or they cancel the contracts because they have to make a substantial change to developer's disclosure statement. There's material changes to the product they can build. If they have an opportunity to walk, they might do that and just try to resell, which is really horrible for their reputation and why a lot of them won't do it, but some do.
Yeah, and that being said, like I had a client who wrote on Bowker, and the new rule came in for the 20%, and I offered to the client, like they had the opportunity to walk away and they didn't. And then the completion happened right during COVID, and they couldn't make it up here. And we had to like really be creative in how we were going to get the proper. This is when Zoom signings started to happen.
Right.
Anyway, so the developer held the buyer to the fire and said, you complete or you lose your very significant deposit. So that's why they do have a big deposit.
Right. Well, they're often taking a large deposit right off the bat, and they haven't even broken ground yet, and they're really working on getting their financing in order. And the banks, in order the banks to lend for them to build this large multi-million-dollar, building, they need to have enough money set aside and enough money committed for them to know that they can build. Which is one of the reasons why actually one of the pros of new construction is if you can get in early on sort of first phase, first offering by the developer, there's often a motivation to get signed contracts. And you may find that prices are a little bit more competitive than down the road. And that I use that example of my clients who had an opportunity, and obviously prices have gone up as well. But early on, developers really just want to get their project confirmed and going. Later on, they're trying to consolidate their profits.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say like the price may be going like this. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. So condition, obviously new, you're going to get new. And then for resale condos, it's
you paraphrased me there. Jane asked me to give some ideas on the pros and cons for this list as well. Crappy versus completely renovated. Okay. Oh.
And then strata fees. So usually it's based on dollar value per square foot. And then what happens is in new construction, they reset that once they move in and they begin to work on their budget and review it. Maybe they hire a property manager or whatever. Often though, at the beginning of new construction, they're tending not to build up their contingency fund, where resale condos, they do have to really focus on that. And interestingly, once again, it depends on where the building is in a cycle, because I'm going to show a building today, which I sold in a few years ago. They've had work done, and so their contingency fund is down. But it is a well-managed building. But
yeah. So the contingency fund is to go towards both sort of emergency contingencies and also, expected future costs of upkeep, and that's why we do depreciation report and so forth. But it can be that you hit a point where they forecast a lot of spending in that particular year, and have done a great job of saving money using a good, a sufficient strata fee that goes enough to contingency. But that particular year, they've had to really take a lot out of it to do the work they need. But now for future, there's less anticipated work. So they're kind of building up again.
Yeah. And parking can vary now in the newer construction, especially downtown. They tend to lease the spots. They don't tend to do that on the West Shore as much. But
they do,
pardon?
They do it. I mean, Belmont Residences has leases. Yeah. But so leasing is an interesting one because it gives the developer more leeway when it comes to more flexibility when it comes to allocating parking. But there's just the thing to understand is there's a number of different ways the parking can be allocated. Resale can also have a lease, and you have to actually look into that leased parking spots and understand if you're getting a leased parking spot versus otherwise.
I also want to just point out that a newer construction tends to have more electric
vehicle plugins.
Yeah. But I'm seeing some buildings where they're retrofitting that now. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, the strata has to be open to it, and the obviously the power has to be there has to be enough power to support it. I've seen a few older buildings that have a couple dedicated parking spots that are for the EVs. I guess they plug in charge there. It's not a parking spot for the owner themselves, a specific owner.
Yeah, I have to check in on that because I'm looking at a place right now for a client, and we noticed there's an EV at plug in there, and I'm not sure if it's going to stay as their parking spot or not. Anyway,
Right. Yeah.
okay, heat source can vary. There are some condos that have heat pumps, and especially with the heat dome in summer, more clients are talking about having air conditioning in the summer. And then there's the geothermal, like for Dockside Green and some of the places on the West Shore. And older buildings tend to have radiant hot water and electric baseboard.
Yeah.
And
And some of this is a spectrum, right? I mean, what we're saying here is brand new tends to have more commonly have geothermal and heat pumps, but not always. There's a lot of baseboard, and so there's still lots of sort of more generic heating. But the resale tends to be less common to find geothermal or heat pump. But obviously something that was sold 3 years ago is going to be a resale, but could still have a heat pump.
Yeah. And then restrictions. So the longer a building has been in place, the more rules are applied, I'm finding. Anyway, pet, age, barbecue, rentals, I'm trying to think what else, smoking, and all of that. Whereas in the new condos, unless they substantially change them, generally it's one dog, one cat, and
Yeah.
rules.
Just occurred to me, analogy here, it's sort of nature versus nurture. The brand new building is the baby, and you haven't it hasn't quite developed yet. Its personality, there's a personality there, but it hasn't quite developed. And depending on how it grows and who's living there, it could become quite conservative and have a lot of restrictions. It could still be fairly open. It really will depend on the ownership and the events that happen to it.
So I have a funny story about this. So yesterday I was showing a condo, old clients, and we were in the workroom, and my client is a woodworker, and really enthusiastic about contributing to this building. And so the guy who runs the workshop from the building comes down, and he says, my buyer says, so I have this tool. And the guy goes, can't bring it in. And he goes, I don't have this tool. Yeah, can't bring it in. And so the buyer goes, so what did you used to do for a living? And he goes, I was in the military. And he goes, okay. He goes, that guy's not going to change his mind. What is the rule is a rule.
Yeah.
So, and it does, like, some condos also have rules regarding the number of people that can live in a unit. Like, there's just so many restrictions, and they come about. I used to tell my students, my behavior, my response to you is a result of your behavior. So I start off every year, a blank slate, and essentially I'm changing my attitude based on your behavior.
Sorry, I don't understand this. Can you explain that?
Like every condo starts out with a blank slate, but then you have the guy whose dog pees in the elevator, or
Right.
the person who smokes.
Right. Rules are often reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that these things develop over time to try to compensate for or correct problems that people in the building are identifying. And if the mix of people who bought were mostly investors wanting to rent the units, then it's probably going to continue to be a rental for many years. But if there's mostly people who have bought to own and enjoy and live in themselves, and then there's a few people who have bought for rental, and then they're renting their units out, and then there's some people partying and so forth, there might be some more restrictive rules that come in around rentals. And even though for much of the newer construction, there are allowances to allow rentals for a long period of time, you can still bring in some restrictions on how long rentals can be, tenant rules, restrictions, and that sort of thing. it's a little more limited, but you can still bring in some things. You'll get a sense of what to expect from the future by what's been happening in the past.
Okay, and then last thing are just interior features. So Andrew mentioned a tech nook, a laundry, open concept. I do find like the biggest change, if somebody's going to go in and renovate a condo, I have a client who does this, taking that galley kitchen and opening it up just makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
And in an older building, you get a larger living room. So
yeah. And some older buildings don't have in-suite laundry, and many buildings don't allow to bring in in-suite laundry because of problems with limitations on the piping, plumbing. Just can't support everybody having in-suite laundry. But thanks, Cheryl. Cheryl says frothy is a great term. So most people aren't allowed to bring in suite laundry from, like, say, a 1970s building. But sometimes you can talk to the strata and perhaps put in a European washer-dryer combination in replacement of the dishwasher. Not everybody washes dishes using a dishwasher. So there's sometimes some leeway, but you got to check with strata.
Yeah, I don't like those one unit things because they're not specialized like washer or dryer, and so they just do a crappy job at both. That's
well, it's a standard in Europe. Some of them come with built-in heat pumps, so they're actually quite efficient, and they actually can dry your clothes. I don't have personal experience with them, but I've heard in the past that they don't quite get your clothes that crispy dry that a regular dryer does. So they come out feeling maybe a little damp, but I've also heard that the technology has gotten a lot better, and it is a standard in Europe. So I'm thinking that it's an option available to someone if it's allowed in a building that doesn't have laundry. You might be worth doing it. And some people sneak them in.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And that's where the rules change. Okay, so
I have clients that have 2 black cats, and we were looking at a condo the other day, and I said, this condo only allows 1 cat, and they're like, well, our cats both look alike, so we'll just always, if we ever go out, it'll always just be 1 black cat.
I think I told you about my client who had 3 dogs, and one she just carried around in her purse all the time. I'm like, this is bad news. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Any new listings coming up this week?
Not this week. I'm going to be meeting some folks about very likely end of this month, early March. So we're in March, aren't we? Early April. We'll have a new listing coming. Half duplex, newer construction, downtown area. It's got a quasi suite inside. Duplexes aren't really allowed to have suites, but it's a nice little space. There
are some on Bay Street you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got a brand new listing. It's on Oland Road. It's 1.76 acres, 3,000 square feet, legal suite. It's a flat lot, 1 block away from the West Arm of Shawnigan for $1.75 million. And it's so nice. I love it.
Beautiful. I've seen the photos. It's a beautiful property.
And then I've got a new listing coming up on Tolme at the corner of Quadra, 1 building in. And this is a brand newly renovated condo. It's not a brand new condo, but it's beautifully redone with heated tile floors, new kitchen, bathrooms. So it's 1.5 baths, really, 2 large bedrooms. And that's going to be coming on at $549. That'll be coming on next week or something.
Nice listing.
And that's about it. I have some others, but they're not ready to move yet. So
there you go.
Darn it.
You go. Okay.
Okay. So, and any needs and wants?
Needs and wants? Oh, just about everything. But, sort of a bungalow home in the core would be helpful. A small little 1-bedroom condo has to have a balcony. And that would be under $475, I would say. Does not have to be new, does not have to have in-suite laundry, can be an older building. So we've got some flexibility there. Let me think of the active. I've got a few people under contract, so I'm blanking on the active stuff. There's been a lot of shifting lately on my buyers' needs.
Yeah, and that happens. Don't forget to have a chat with your agent if your motivation changes.
Absolutely. Keep us in the loop and help us to understand what we can do to support you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for an awesome presentation. I was not able to see your face during the PowerPoint, which is a real bummer.
That's okay.
But we enjoyed having you here. I just want to remind people, don't forget to subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Yes.
And we are here every Monday at 10 a.m. So please join us. And we are on YouTube if you want to check us out, or you can go to our website at VancouverIslandTime.com.
Yeah.
Andrew, how do we reach you?
You can reach me. You can give me a call, 250-360-6106. Fire me an email, info@andrewplank.com. Check out the website, andrewplank.com. If you go to the blog section there's also older episodes of our He Said, She Said, They Said. And you'll find a bio with some more information about myself and approach on the website as well.
Andrew's awesome.
I'm awesome. Jane is awesome too.
I'm awesome sauce. All right. If you want to reach me, my name is Jane Johnston. My number is 250-744-0775. You can reach me at briarhillgroup@gmail.com. And I have two websites. One's briarhillgroup.com, which we'll talk about buying and selling real estate, and Vancouver Island Time, where we house these videos as well as information on neighborhoods across Victoria. All right. So we're going to see you next Monday at 10 a.m.
Thanks everybody for watching and tuning in, and looking forward to hearing from you. And as always, we'll remind you, please send us your chats and comments so we can make this a little more interactive.
Yeah, that gives us a lot of energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you later. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks.